Now the election back and I'll die away. In short, this is what I have to say. Let us forget fights and grudges and concentrate. Come, let us sit and try to relate. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come let us work hand in hand.
So come let us work hand in hand to build our land. Let us develop this place. It is home. I want to welcome you to the Dynamic Hour. Again, I want to encourage the folks on Facebook and YouTube to please share the live. Good morning also to the folks listening via Vibes 101.3 FM and 106.3 FM. At this point, I want to get straight into it. Our beloved Prime Minister did an interview with Callistra WPG10, I think. And he spoke about the road condition and what will happen ultimately. He was very firm this time around because I can tell you there seemed to be an intentional act on the part of some of these contractors, if you ask me, intentionally slowing down many of the projects. And many of these contractors, they come with baggage, those that I'm referring to. Either they were involved in politics and they still bitter, disgruntled, or they are affiliated with the opposition side of things. Many of these contractors. And it's a link up. So this person might be a family member of another person who's involved in the politics and they play the game. So they delay many of these projects when they could move faster, when they can get it done faster. And they drag it on to frustrate the public, and then the outrage would be against the government, not against these contractors, because many people don't even know them. But I'm happy that our beloved Prime Minister spoke candidly about the whole road and the infrastructure in the country. So I want to play excerpt of that, courtesy, of course, all credit to WPG10 and Callistra, who did the interview where he spoke about that. So let me now feature that because I think it's a good interview.
So I think that's best directed to Chairman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, now. From a national standpoint, Prime Minister, your Ministry of Infrastructure has been taking a lot of hits because of the, particularly what's happening with the roads. One of our major commercial centers, Grandlands, is like that. What can you say to the public about why everything seems to be moving so slow?
Sure. In a sense, the question is directed at me as the Minister for Infrastructure, but I should emphasize that the pipeline exercise is an NAWASA project funded by the UK SIF government. And the consultant is headed by Nigel John on behalf of the client, NAWASA. The contractor is Mr. Joe Gilbert and whatever his company is. So perhaps if you want real specifics, you should contact these three entities: NAWASA, Mr. Gilbert, and Mr. John. But
give you a report.
But no. I mean, no. I'm going to come to that. So I will do my best to explain my own dissatisfaction with what has transpired. The contractor was paid, I'm told, an accelerated fee to accelerate the work, because we recognize there's a timeline for when the funds are available. And if you recall, this is one of those projects that almost died because of the enormous delays in implementing the project. Two, it seems that the contractor suffered with some capacity issues in the beginning because it was night work. And I suppose persons probably are not used to working at night. the contractor is responsible under the contract I'm briefed for pressure testing the pipes. Now, this is a critical issue, and I've made it clear that I'm not accepting any shortcuts, because when that pressure comes down from Concord and comes through those pipes, we cannot have a situation where the pipes are leaking or the pipes burst. The implications will be catastrophic. And therefore, if there are issues with leaks and so on, we need to do that now before the roads are reinstated. My brief is that the contractor is responsible for doing so. The contractor seems to have had no equipment to be able to do so. NAWASA, therefore, has taken on its own and attempted, even though it's not its responsibility, obviously it will audit because it's the client and ultimately it's responsible for water, but doing the pressure testing itself to try and help move this issue along. That led to some contention between them and the contractor. Without doubt, the contractor as well is also responsible for reinstating the road. That has not gone satisfactory, and I think it's important for us to understand, because I don't think the public quite gets that. You know, contracts are awarded to people who they themselves don't have the capacity to do the contract, so they then subcontract. So you may be the overall contractor for the project, but the specific aspect of road reinstatement is being done by someone else who you subcontract to. Oftentimes, though, if you are subcontracting to someone that you're not supervising, or they may not have the actual capacity to do it, you end up with the kinds of things that we've ended up in Brandon's. And there are all kinds of issues: lack of aggregates, lack of bitumen, lack of asphalt, and we can go on and on. But in my view, a bigger overall issue of many of our professionals and contracting firms locally not investing in the resources, whether it's equipment or human resources or unavailability of human resources, to do the jobs that they're being paid millions of dollars to, right? I've said this to NAWASA, I've said this to the consultant, I've said this to the contractor. It has gone to the point where there is no excuses in terms of, in my view, the callous way in which the road conditions are, because the reinstatement of the road, even if you don't pitch the road, they certainly could do a better job. I've driven on this road at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, there's no work taking place. Right? So even if they're working from 9 to 2, which is 5 hours, that's not a lot. There's no excuse, because you have between 2 and 6 in the morning to do a far better job of at least making the road usable and less dangerous. I mean, all of these loose chip stones and so on, they're dangerous. They could certainly hit people, people could slip and fall. But I want the public here to understand these kinds of issues. I have no power to terminate the contractor if I'm dissatisfied, because the contract is between NAWASA and the contractor. The procurement and the funding is coming through UKSIF and the Caribbean Development Bank. So even if I wanted to, I can't call the Caribbean Development Bank and say terminate, because there are legal obligations, there's all kinds of processes that you have to go through. So a lot of times people blame the government for stuff that the government has no control over. The government had no say in who became the contractor. There's a procurement process that is followed. It had no say in who became the consultant. The only thing the government could have done really in this case was to try and fight, thankfully, and the UK government agreed to make the funding available so that the project could proceed. But the management of the project is being done via NAWASA, its consultant, and Mr. Gilbert. We have now sought, obviously, to put pressure and to get involved and to ask for more rigorous updates and to insist that things that make sense happen, right? And it's still, respectfully, it's not happening, in my view, anyway, close to the pace. The road reinstatement is awful. There's no other way to accept it. They are seeking to reinforce just the track that they dig, but obviously they're using equipment that damages either side of the road. And you see that kind of stuff all the time. So the truth is, and I've said this repeatedly, I've tried to be kind to a lot of us who are in the construction industry over the last 3.5 years, and hope that we will actually care a little bit more about our work, care a little bit more about the image of the country, care a little bit more the quality that we deliver to the public. But it doesn't seem to me that being kind is working, right? So the reality is we have to be honest. And I don't know of any member of the public who would say that what is going on is acceptable. It is not.
Is there a flaw in the CDB framework that we have? Because CDB and you know, those international funding issues, is there some sort of flaw?
Well, I would
the only project that sits down.
Well, I would say this, right? Multilateral banks are oftentimes inflexible when it comes to their procurement processes. And unfortunately, oftentimes it also excludes a lot of local contractors because they'll never be able to meet the thresholds that are set. So it is one of the challenges that we have. And it's one of the challenges that I've kind of said to CDB and other banks, we need to in my view, you can't have one single procurement process. You know, for smaller projects, there ought to be, in my view, more flexibility, and you have to be able to build the capacity of the local contractors. Because if at the end of the day, people are borrowing money from you, and all of the contractors become regional or international, you're never going to build the capacity of the local contractors. So in my view, we must be able to have tiered projects procurement guidelines, where for more expensive, more complicated projects, you say, okay, this is the guidelines. For simpler, straightforward ones, this is the guidelines. So what I can certainly say is that we, and I've certainly myself, have gotten involved in actually meeting with NOASA, the contractor, the consultant, to first of all say, look, we are already significantly inconvenienced. There is no point in slowing down the work. You need to accelerate the pipeline, because at the end of the day, we recognize the singular importance of this. This is a once in a generations a project, so we need to get the pipes done, right? We have already suffered enormous inconvenience in terms of the conditions of the road, to the point where the entire road is going to have to be redone, right? And therefore, the reinstatement is effectively temporary, just to ease the challenges that would allow us time then to actually get the design and procurement process to redo the entire road, certainly from the Republic Bank roundabout all the way into Burns Point, once the pipes are laid. So we're hoping that in the next month they can accelerate coming across the Lagoon Road, coming across Burns Point, and then they can finish the piece between the Gulf Coast Gap and the Foliage, so that we can at least say we've completed the pipeline, and then we can actually get on with improving the overall road conditions. But it's not just Grandlands. As you can see, pipeline is going all the way through Calavini area, all the way through Granitang. These are enormous projects. We don't have a choice, because water is absolutely vital, especially for the southeastern and the southern part of the island where no water is produced. And we have to be able to move the water from the western and northeastern part of the island into the southern and southeastern part of the island.
About a year ago, Prime Minister, I spoke to you, and even those roads that are not part of this massive water projects that are happening are also in a bad state. And one of the things you said was we can't get bitumen. You talked a lot of what you just said now. You talked about and then the capacity of contractors, the diligence of contractors. And what have you done in the last year to shore up things so that that part of it that your ministry is responsible for, which is roadworks, is taken care of?
Yeah, so what we've done is invite contractors from outside of Grenada to, in fact, bid on road, I would put it this way in general terms, roadworks throughout the length and breadth of Grenada on a finance, design, build and maintain model. That requires, obviously, for these contractors to come in to speak to us about the roads, speak to us about the packages, be able to then give us their quotes, because they have to get the financing to do it, and then be able to operationalize moving forward. So where we are, we have a number of at least 2 or 3 companies, Calco, Namalco, CIE Construction Engineering, it's Mr. Reno's company, who've all come in and made those bids. The ministry, I just came from a briefing with the ministry where we are identifying the packages that is likely to be awarded to some of these contractors. These companies are bringing in their own asphalt plant, because we actually only have 1 asphalt plant on the island being operated by CCC, 1 quarry being operated by CCC, which essentially means everybody who needs asphalt, including the government, is completely dependent on CCC. The quarry itself is problematic and probably should have been closed a long while as well. We are working with Gravel and Concrete to reopen the Telescope Quarry. Gravel and Concrete is likely to be partnering with a private entity to enable it to do so successfully. We're hoping that this can happen within the first 6 months of the year. We believe the equipment and so on is already on the way. So we obviously have to look also potentially at importing aggregates if necessary in order to be able to actually build the road. So we expect that by the end of February, we should settle on the packages. I should say some of the preliminary packages would be from the Morris Bishop International Airport to the Woodlands Roundabout, and then from the cliff to the entrance to Old Westall, New Westall Point, and then from Old Westall all the way back up to St. Paul's Police Station. We're also looking at the Decoy Roundabout all the way to Mount Kuma. That is a major road. The Mabuya, what is called Mabuya, which is the road that is now not passable from the entrance of when you're exiting Guav, which has been like that, I think, for the last, I don't know, maybe 30 years. We're looking at that. We have to deal with the Willis Road, which was a leftover from the Hanover project. So all of these are things that we are hoping to sign contracts for in February, so that we can begin the actual work. And then in the meantime, we've purchased a pothole truck, which hopefully should get here soon, so that we can address some of the potholes, not in the manner in which we know potholes are fixed, but in a proper professional manner. So we've basically spent the last year trying to get all of those things in place. So come February, March, we're able to actually begin significant road enhancement. We also have bridges packages, particularly in St. Patrick's. There are about 4 or 5 bridges that have been designed. We're doing the design review, And then the expectation is that we'll be able to award contracts. I think Snell has already been awarded and construction work is taking place.
So we probably see the roads in a much better condition across the country by June 2027.
It's not, yes, June 27 for sure. Yes, June 2027 for sure.
Abuya is going to be a major undertaking. We have some geological issues there with,
Yes.
with fault lines and peaks and things like that, I believe that.
Well, I don't know if it's that difficult, but there's a design for it.
It's going to be a bit more than just digging up and rebuilding the road.
Yes.
Or else we'll continue to have the things. And
Yeah, it'll be done properly. Yes. I'm confident. If we can do the Molina Bridge, we can do Mabuya.
the Morning Bridge.
Yes.
Yes. Prime Minister, thank you so much for giving us your time, and we look forward to having you again. I have more.
Right. So that's a very nice interview there, speaking about the roads. And I just love how he's blunt, straight up, because sitting here and listening to that interview, all I am asking myself is, where was NNP all the 20-something years? And what was the NNP doing for the 20-something years when it comes to roads? Were they widening them? Were they putting drains alongside them? Were they properly repairing them? Were they properly maintaining them? These questions were playing in my head because the NNP was there for 23 years and a half. And you could be as bright as the late Einstein. But one thing you must conclude is that these roads can't just get bad in 2 years, 3 years. And I'm not talking about the roads that they're cutting and laying pipes, right? We know why they're like that. But I'm talking about generally the roads in the country. They just can't get bad in 3 years or 2 years plus. It's just not possible. All right? It means that it was a number of years and they were not properly maintained. So they remained that bad for all of these years. So those questions were playing in my mind. And I was like, okay, all of a sudden, NDC has to fix all of these things, find resources, find this, find that, to fix every. For example, our beloved Prime Minister mentioned this machine, this truck, this equipment to fix all the potholes and so on. I mean, countries have been using that for a lot of years. This whole thing about getting the guava leaf and tying it on a piece of stick and dipping it in the, whatever thing they have in that bucket, substance, I don't know, whatever, bitumen, whatever, I don't know what it is, oil, I don't know, tar, whatever, dipping that and put it in some hole, and it looks so unprofessional, but that has been there for all of the years, and it has not been working because they patch today, tomorrow, 2 days, 3 days, rain starts falling, problem again, and over and over and over, right? So people need to know that the problem that we are experiencing with the roads, they don't just happen in 2 years or 3 years. The NNP was not maintaining the roads. They were not widening the roads. They were not putting drains alongside the roads. They were not repairing it properly. And the mess is now for the NDC to clean up and fix. But I'm happy that NDC is futuristic. They're thinking broader, deeper, medium to long term, and they would find the solutions. I love that. Continuing, moving on to another subject matter. I had to laugh at Emlyn Pierre because everything for the NNP seemed to be politics. Everything.
Leader of His Majesty's
Everything seemed to be politics. NNP was in power for 23 years and a half. Emlyn Pay was a part of the NNP for the greater portion of that, if not all of the years. She's not new. The NNP never passed any legislation when it comes to cannabis. They never did that. They never passed anything. Coming close to the election, they went in the parliament and they read some bill. And I believe it was all because they wanted votes. They wanted to fool people into believing that they're going to do something about cannabis. But they never genuinely and seriously were thinking about doing anything about cannabis. So it took these young men and women with vision and being unafraid to touch something like that, to pass in the lower house a bill. Then it will go in the upper house and it will be passed. It will become law. And, it took them to do that. But Emlyn Pay and the NNP, as usual, they want you to believe that all of a sudden, they started this and they're happy that it passed now and, give you that kind of sense that they support the legislation and they support the bill, but I'm concerned about this. That's how they operate. So listen, Emlyn Pay.
Position Honorable Emlyn Pay has expressed reservations about certain provisions of the Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Amendment Bill 2026 following its tabling in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. Speaking to GBN after today's sitting of the House, the opposition leader said she supports measures aimed at reform, but remains apprehensive about specific aspects of the legislation. She indicated that her concerns reflect the broader position of her party as the bill moves through the parliamentary debate process.
I said today our policy position on critical matters don't change, and so we support decriminalizing the use of marijuana or the possession of marijuana. Quite a number of young people end up with permanent records, police records, as a result of.
Folks, don't forget that Emlyn Pay and the NNP was in power for 20-something years. So don't make her believe, because there are people now listening to this, and you will believe that she's a newcomer and that the NNP supports this thing. But they were in power, and they didn't pass any legislation to have people be able to plant 4 trees in their backyard or carry, if they want to, 56 grams, or have have the use for medical purposes, or the expunging, the cleaning of police records, because a lot of young people have police records with this thing, this hub, and they call it a drug, so they charge them, they imprison them, and they can't pick themselves up from that. Remember, Youth for Change during NNP time was out there campaigning on the legalization of cannabis and the expunging of the records for cannabis, right? So we were out there when NNP was in power fighting this fight. So all of a sudden, Emlyn Pay is speaking now and making you believe that she's new to this. But the NNP position for all of these years were not under our watch. That this wouldn't happen under their watch. That was the NNP's position, in my belief, based on the utterances from some of these people. And it was very clear. They never passed anything. They never pushed forward anything. But lo and behold, this thing is getting traction. Yes, there will be people who are going to be against it. And who cares? Who the hell cares? We're in 2025. Get on with it. Right? You not being supportive of it. But okay, cigarette has been smoking in Grenada, and on the box it says it's dangerous for your health, it could kill you, and all this thing. You have no problem with that. Alcohol causes more harm than anything else in this place, and it has been there for years, right? But I'm saying to all the moralists and whoever, you not in agreement with it, that's your damn business. At the end of the day, this move is a progressive move, right? We're in 2026, 2026. We have to appreciate that, all right? So NNP, I mean, they're speaking and they're making people believe that they're new to this thing and they embrace it and the NNP is not for this thing. They're making you believe that they're for it because they want the votes. Election is due in 2027. They want the votes. That is what they want. So they come on the air and but deep down, they're not for this. They're not for this. They're pretending. They jump on the bandwagon because they realize Grenadians have, embraced this whole move. So when this woman speaks, don't believe that she's new. She could fool you easily to believe that she's new. They were in government. They didn't pass one damn thing when it comes to cannabis.
Of possession of small quantities, and we don't think that's in the best interest of a person's development and their well-being, etc., their future. So we feel strongly. We also support the view that there are some persons, their medicinal purposes for which this is used. And
but you support the view, but you never did anything when you were in NNP, in government. When NNP was in government, you did not do anything to make that a reality. All of a sudden, you're jumping on the bandwagon and making people believe that your party had this position and your party support. Well, your party was in power for 23 damn years and a half. Who the hell you think you could fool? You can't fool me. You could fool maybe some of those politicians who are novice and who don't know anything much about the politics. You know, there are folks who are in NDC, in high positions, and they know much about politics. You know, I listened to one of them only recently, and I mean a senior one who carries portfolios, saying to me, well, Peter David party, and we shouldn't say anything about that party and just allow them to think because they would affect something like that, the NDC more, not NDC, sorry, the NNP more, and so on. I said, brother, sister, you don't know what you're talking about. Shut up. Look at where Peter David and his party is targeting, the constituencies that they're targeting. St. Patrick West, right? St. John, St. Patrick East, St. Andrew Northeast, and some of those areas. They are doing so. Don't believe that NNP going to vote for these people. No, they're not going to get NNP votes. But there's a great probability because he was a part of NDC, right? There are some people who he may have impacted, and those votes that he will get or they will get should be votes that should come to NDC, right? Because the people who you see around them, they are not really NNP. They followed Peter into NNP, but they're not really NNP, right? And they're more likely to vote for NDC if Peter and them not around. So they're not going to help NDC. Don't fool yourselves. No. So this jackassness about, don't say anything and don't talk about Peter and his party and don't go after Peter and his party and this stupidness. Some of these people, they don't even know politics. They been around long, but they don't know the politics. They don't. They're silly. They're stupid in the political world. And they happen to get a walk. They happen to get some kind of portfolio. They happen to get something and they believe that they know. They know no damn thing about the politics. I'm telling you. All right? Trust me on that one. A lot of these people who you see fronting, they know nothing about the politics. Anyways, going back to Emmeline Pear with your nonsense. Folks, don't make Emmeline Pear make you believe that she new to this thing. NNP been there a long, long time. And they did nothing to expunge the records of people who were arrested and charged for these cannabis offenses and so on, cannabis-related offenses. All right? When it comes to cannabis possession, also the Rastafarians and all of this, they never liked these people. They never. They treated them badly. But all of a sudden, you listen to Emmeline Pear, you kind of believe, something different. Don't be fooled.
Religious purposes, so I respect the Rastafarian community and their own belief. But our view as it relates to implementation is where I think we're probably a little bit off to the government, in that we believe that there are serious consequences for abuse or misuse of marijuana. And
well, so Emmeline Pear, you're too damn dumb. What a woman stupid so. Cannabis being decriminalized or cannabis not being decriminalized, there will be people who are going to abuse the hub, and there will be people who will not do so. So no matter you decriminalize it or not, that's been happening from since God time immemorial. You always concern, misconcern. When the woman speaks, she speaks so damn dumb that I wonder if she believes that Grenadians going to fall for her nonsense. She's not prime minister material.
So whatever step you take, you have to ensure that all of the safeguards are well in place.
Well, the bill has those provisions in it. Stop your damn stupidness. You think you're in your church?
Of the structures and the systems are there to ensure that this is done properly.
Her concerns revolve around exposure, prescription, and access to cannabis by minors. Areas.
There is the legislation speaks to that and how concerned this, and Emmeline is a, oh God, that NNP has. Boy, let me go and listen to Lennox Andrews. I think he said it best.
Thank you very much, Honorable MP.
And with no information on their whereabouts. Many children would have had to grow up in the absence of their fathers and not knowing who their fathers are. Mr. Speaker, there is a saying that a man must be prepared to give his life for a cause that is just and dignified. A man must be prepared to give his life for a cause that is just and dignified. For in so doing, he will never die, but live forever. And so the souls of the many Rastafari men and women who gave their lives for this noble but meaningful cause was not in vain. For our presence here this morning, discussing the bill for the decriminalization of marijuana is a direct result of sacrificing their souls over many years. I stand.
All right, Honorable MP, before you proceed, let me just make this announcement that we do not allow applause from the gallery. Please, so refrain from applauding. It doesn't matter how you feel about what is said. Here in the chamber, refrain. The practice is the applauding comes from the flow, right? I understand the urge to the feeling, but the practice in the parliament is that it's not allowed in the gallery. Please proceed, Honorable MP.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But let me say this, Mr. Speaker. With all these Rasta men here present, I'm very happy for their presence. And I say to you, Rasta man, live up. Rasta man, live up. Don't give up. Today, Mr. Speaker, the cannabis industry is big. It is very big. Marijuana is being studied by some of the finest minds this planet has produced. I met a young Dominican, a young guy from Dominica, when I visited St. Vincent some years ago, or in fact last year, because every year St. Vincent has a seminar, a symposium on marijuana. And a team from our commission, including our chairman, the finest legal mind, Mr. Claude, was also present, together with a few Rasta men. And that young man from Dominica has an institute based in Jamaica with a team of young, bright Caribbean people. And they are doing research on the marijuana, the strain, the quality, and so on. So some of the finest minds, Mr. Speaker, are involved. Millions of dollars are spent every year in research on the medicinal benefits of this plant, while simultaneously millions are invested and millions of profit are earned from the same medicinal products of marijuana. Newsletters are produced every day on the development taking place in this industry. And of course, there is no reason why we in Grenada should not subscribe to them and read them and familiarize ourselves with this very important topic. Many young people are taking up employment in this industry, so that today, marijuana has its own lawyers. Peter, I think you are a marijuana lawyer. Today, marijuana has its own pharmacists, it has its own doctors, it has its own engineers. So while we in Grenada, we're persecuting and we're jailing our young men and women for this plant, others are happily making a mint out of it. So we must stop that. We must stop this persecution. It's not good for us. And Mr. Speaker, I want to just give you some figures about the great United States, which everybody referred to. The 2025 Vance finding, and Vance is the leading staffing agency for the cannabis industry in the US, revealed that the US cannabis industry currently supports, employs 425,002 full-time jobs. 425,000 people working in marijuana. And that in the same year, the national cannabis retail sales amounted to $30.1 billion. It's a $1 billion industry, Mr. Speaker, sir. So we have to get involved in it. And the long-term outlook for cannabis remains incredibly strong. And so today, Mr. Speaker, today represents a special moment in Grenada's political and economic history. Today marks a transformative milestone in our nation's journey towards a more just, evidence-based, and responsible approach to cannabis. For decades, our approach to cannabis was characterized by rigid prohibition, a system that was prone to causing lasting social damage and disproportionate harm to our young people in particular. And today, we move away from that era of prohibition, guided by the exhaustive consultations with the Cannabis Working Committee, our Ministry of Legal Affairs, and our fellow citizens. And Mr. Speaker, I want to recognize members of the Cannabis Committee here, if you don't mind. They don't have to applaud. But if I could ask them to take a bow, that would be fine. So the chair Please stand and take a bow. Miss Lazarus, the PRO, please stand and take a bow. Miss Antoine, another PRO, please stand and take a bow. Chief Medical Officer, the big brain, Dr. Son Charles, just like me, Cuban trained, well educated, please stand and take a bow. Officer Cohen, and Officer Cohen tell them that with this law, you have more work to do, eh? Some people say, with this law, with this bill, the police will not work. Tell them you have more work to do. Our assistant permanent secretary with responsibility for marijuana, for cannabis, yes, Natalie Williams, and the driving force behind all of this, the executive secretary, executive director of the Cannabis Commission, Sister Nandi. Nandi, don't be afraid to stand. The truth be told, Mr. Speaker, is that these are the people. But I missed out the main man. We have in our midst, as part of the committee, a Rastafari. Rastafari from Chantimel, Selassie and I, ever living, ever faithful, ever sure. And they use their brain cells painstakingly, so Mr. Speaker. They spend hours thinking, reading, analyzing, and coming up with this bill that we have today, in consultation with a lot of people. We got calls from principals, from churches, from individuals, from all over the place, guiding the process and providing the input, the recommendation for us to bring us here today. So this has been a marvelous job, and I want to commend profoundly the Commission for its work in that regard. So, Mr. Speaker, today our government is evolving beyond the old ways of thinking. We are replacing a broken system of criminalization with a modern, well-regulated framework, one that prioritizes the health of individuals and the safety of our youth. Oops. While finally unlocking the therapeutic and economic power for all Grenadians. So in summary, Mr. Speaker, this bill we are presenting to this country today for our people is grounded in three main pillars. The first pillar is that of justice, social justice. It's a bill to rectify the past. We are providing amnesty and the expungement of records for cannabis offenses that fall within the specification of the bill. We believe that a past mistake should not be a permanent barrier to an individual's progress. Furthermore, we are upholding the constitutional rights of our Rastafarian community, recognizing the right to use cannabis as a sacred sacrament within the places of worship. As a Catholic, Mr. Chair, I use incense. We in the Catholic Church, we use incense. So the Rasta man has a right to use his ganja. Nothing is wrong with that. The second pillar, Mr. Speaker, is personal safety, personal rights, and public safety. And I want to make this point, Mr. Speaker, loud and clear, and I'm going to repeat it. This is a measured shift, not an introduction to an unrestricted market. It is a measured shift and not an introduction to an unrestricted market. We are decriminalizing marijuana to individuals aged 21 and above. We are also decriminalizing the possession of up to 56 grams of cannabis and 15 grams of cannabis resin for private use. We are also permitting registered household cultivation of 4 plants. And this is to ensure that adults can address their personal health needs in privacy without fear of arrest. Notwithstanding this, Mr. Speaker, we remain very vigilant. We have established a fixed penalty fine system for the public use of cannabis and created a rehabilitative framework for our youth. And I will speak more about that just now. And to those who intend to exploit our children, be warned. Be warned. The penalties for supplying minors with cannabis remain severe. And so we choose counseling over criminalization for our youth. But we also choose strict enforcement for the protectors. And Mr. The third pillar has to do with the creation of a Grenadian-first marijuana industry. We haven't reached it yet, but we're getting there. So looking ahead, our good intention is to build a national asset. And the Cannabis Commission, and through its work, we are going to design a legal industry, medicinal agro-processing and research that prioritizes local benefits in the Grenadian-first industry. And I want to say this, Mr. Speaker, that industry we want to create is part of our government's effort to expand and to increase and to widen the economic base of our country so that more employment opportunities can be provided for our citizens. And therefore, the marijuana industry will serve as a complement to the traditional economic sectors like agriculture, tourism, construction. And that's the vision of this government. We first started with the creative economy as a new area of economic activity. Then we have the blue economy, another new area of economic activity. So we are widening the economic base. And when we develop our marijuana industry, we're going to have another new area of economic activity that will increase our employment, our income, and our output, and make our country richer, and make every Ghanaian richer, so that there will be no more poverty in this country. There will be no poverty in this country. There will be no poverty in this country. Amen. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to spend a little bit more time on the real situation facing our young people relative to cannabis and how this bill seeks to give attention and to protect our young people, in particular our young men. And we know what's happening to our young men these days. We're not giving them enough attention. They need the attention. So, Mr. Speaker, I have collected data on the number of marijuana arrests in Grenada for the period 2021 to 2025. And I will tell you, in 2021, there were 243 cases. In 2022, 115, because you know all that, because you defended them. In 2023, there were 95. In 2024, there was 125. In 2025, we had 71. So put differently, over the last 5 years, there has been 649 arrests for marijuana in this country. And this figure, Mr. Speaker, underscores the objective necessity of the current bill in rectifying the social injustices of our past approach to marijuana in this country. But I want to go further, Mr. Speaker. Of that, 649 cases, 11%, or 72, involve individuals caught with less than 56 grams. Mr. Speaker, could I ask for another 15 minutes, please?
Honorable MP, the allotted time to members is 15 minutes according to the standing orders. I now allow you to go on for another 5 minutes.
%46% is the same 56 grams we're talking about that we're trying to decriminalize. 72 cases. 46% of 300 cases were classified as simple possession. But here this, Mr. Speaker, 14%, which is 90 cases, involved children and young people. Involved children and young people. Under this new bill, this children going to jail. They would not be defended by Peter under this new bill. Under this new bill, these young people will be directed to counseling and rehabilitation rather than entering the justice system. Good? And Mr. Speaker, I want to refer to the kind of counseling that is expected, the kind of education that is expected. Apart from the fact that they will be taught about the negative impact of smoking at an early age, right? They will also be taught, Mr. Speaker, about the many professions associated with marijuana. And I want to refer to some of them. Cultivation and growing. You could be a grower, a harvest technician, you could be a director of cultivation, you could be a breeder or a nursery assistant, because it's an industry. Processing and manufacturing. You could be an extraction technician, an edible chef. You could be a packaging specialist or an infusion technician. Retail and dispensary. You can be a bud tender, a dispensary manager, a dispensary buyer. Laboratory and quality assurance. You can be a lab technician, a scientist, a quality control specialist. Distribution, logistics, and corporate. You can be a delivery driver, a marketing brand manager, a cannabis consultant. You could be an accountant. And there are some emerging and specialized roles. You could be a cannabis store operator. Yes, cannabis store operator. A data analyst, equipment technician. So there are many wonderful professions associated with marijuana. So while some of these jobs may require entry-level training, the majority of them require specialized training and knowledge in horticulture, in biochemistry, and of course, in legal compliance. So, Mr. Speaker, we are well taking care of our young people in this bill. And so, Mr. Speaker, given my 5 minutes, let me rush to close. And I want to say this, Mr. Speaker, in closing. This bill represents a paradigm shift, a change in the status quo, a break with the past, a new construct, which when passed in Parliament will become the new conventional wisdom regarding our attitudes and our approach and of our image towards marijuana in this country. And therefore I call on all of us Grenadians to become familiar with this bill. Discuss it among yourselves, for it will be the basis for the identification and development of a new area of economic activity that will increase our income, employment, and output, our gross domestic product. So the foundational work has been done. I once again thank the members of the Cannabis Committee for your good work. And the time is now for us all to work together to build a country that is just, and that is fear, and to make Grenada a better place for all of us to live. Thank you.
Thank you very much.